Have you ever been reading a celebrity pastor's blog post or listening to a famous Bible teacher and something jumps out to you and you're just like, how am I the only person seeing this thing? Why isn't anyone talking about it? Well, you're not alone. Welcome to Underdog Theology. This podcast is about looking at what's happening in evangelicalism. I'm talking tweets, I'm talking books, blogs, videos, all of it, and judging it according to Scripture. Whether that's reacting to celebrity pastors, teasing about the latest ridiculous battle in the culture war, or just having a little bit of fun together, this show is for all the folks who feel like they're on the outside looking in, who feel like they don't have a voice, who feel like they're an underdog. Welcome to Underdog Theology. Oh, we are back! What is going on, everybody? I hope your Monday is going super great. I hope everybody over here who's hopping into the chat, I hope you're having a great Monday. Everyone else can jump off a bridge. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Unless that bridge is like really small. Like it's a very short bridge. There's not a whole lot going on underneath, you know? It's very safe. Maybe there's, I don't know, mattresses underneath. It's a little weird. All right. Well, that was weird. Hey, you know what? We're going to have some fun today. We're going to be talking about Johnny Pipes. John the Pied Piper. We're going to be talking about him and talking about Shepherd's Conference. Yes, we're talking about the semi-reformed, mostly fundy Mecca. It's the thing. The cruise ship for pastors. We're talking about Shepherd's Conference because it comes around every year, and every year it's a gift. Not necessarily because of the teaching that comes out, but just because there's always something. There's always something to talk about after that thing, which makes me wonder, you know, if there's just like a lot of like controversy and like just everyone has hot takes about this event every single year, is that a good thing? Like that's probably bad, right? I don't know. Maybe that's my show though. Maybe that's every show there's somebody who has a hot take. So I guess I shouldn't be talking too much other than, you know, somebody's got to do this podcast. So might as well be me. I got all the equipment anyways, right? Well, welcome to the show. We got all the peoples. We got Lumberton Church who's here. We've got Seth Meyer wondering if I'm okay. I'm okay, buddy. It's just, you know, I got to get the show going while I can. You know, we might have to have a little bit of a work stoppage. I'm not going on strike. I'm just saying, like, there's some things that are going around my house because there are teachers who are striking at certain times of the day, which makes it very difficult for a kid with diabetes. So like, we might have to, you know, stop the show for a minute and go and work on some of that. I got the numbers. I got everything. No one ever needs to worry. I'm worried for everything. So you don't need to worry. I'm doing enough of the worrying. But you know what? I don't have to worry about David Collins. He says, hey, family, love y'all. And we know what we got to do. I mean, we're talking about Shepherd's Conference, right? We got to do it.
Fam?
What's up, fam? Michael S. is saying so close to 6K. Will I ever reach it? I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. Like last night, I thought maybe it would happen. And then I woke up and it's like, you know, you lost a subscriber. Dang it. But, you know, I got to say what I have to say. And you know what? Some people aren't going to like it. But yes, we're very close to hitting 6K. I appreciate you. Michael S. always watching and being like, hey, let's celebrate a milestone. I appreciate that. Caleb says, curious as to Dean's hot takes on these. Mine are, number one, Piper needs to stop. And two, the singing and music was fine. It was fine, guys. It was fine. I like and appreciate Piper, but I feel like he frequently says something giga cringe, which I'm assuming is like a higher level of cringe. I don't know. I'm too cringy. I don't know. Ty and Juliet Power are here and they say, hey, y'all, sending phileo love to all y'all. Not Eros. Just saying. Oh, man. And if you're one of those people that say, how do they say it? They say like filio. I've known some guys who've taken Greek classes with me and they still come out of there saying filio. Come on. Come on, son. You know it's Phileo. You know it's Phileo. Stop messing around. Then we got Christina is here, and she just says, woo, woo. Let me get you. Let's do this again. Woo! I'm just kidding. She's just excited. I love it. Heidi says, hello, dogs. Which sounds so formal next to woo. Hello, dogs. Hopping in the chat. Salutations, dogs. I'm just kidding. I'm having fun today, you know? It's just one of those shows. I don't know. I've got energy. I'm going to use it. Aaron says, what's up? Seems like the kind of day I should be holding Heidi's hand. They're longing for each other, y'all. It's a little awkward for the rest of us, but you know, they love each other. We're happy about that. The Claymore says hello. And he also said, this is a great channel. And I appreciate that. John S says, show us the mock-ups of Underdog Studio in the shed. It's not anywhere close to done. Man, I haven't mocked it up yet. It's going to be different. It's going to be different than this, but I got a lot of stuff going on, John. I got to paint all the upstairs. I've got to put in a new light fixture. I've got to replace the ceilings in my kitchen and in my dining room. I got to replace all the floors, like all of them. All the floors, they're there, which is good, but that's about it. So, we got a lot of work to do around the house. I'm really hoping this summer, though, I got to get into that shed, which again is a house. It's a house. It's not a shed. I don't know why. We got duct tape on our floors in places, but the shed is great. It's livable, but it doesn't have insulation, so that's going to be a problem. So we got to fix that first. So we'll get there. The studio is going to be great. I'm saying in the fall. You know, it's going to be great. Gives me something to shoot for. Let's see. Caleb says, as we have these things happen and no one is commenting, I picture Dean as Thanos grabbing the gauntlet and saying, fine, I'll do it myself. That is high praise. High praise. I need to get that sound effect in here. But you know what I'm going to do? I can nope, it's not there. Someday I'm going to get into here and I'm going to make everything right. But this is one of my favorites.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you know WWE, you know. Wendy is here. What's up, Wendy? She says, hit the like button. I appreciate that. We got 13 likes. And how many viewers do we got? We got 64? What? Why 64 already? Okay. You guys want to talk about John MacArthur? Some of y'all are just like, get on with it. This is the show. All right. Where I just have fun and I talk about whatever I want and interact with the chat and all my friends who come and hang out in these streams. And eventually we'll talk about John MacArthur and I'll be like, I'm going to clip that segment out. And then I never will. So that's what we do here. Who else was here? That church guy says John Piper talking about dolphins again. Yep. Claymore, which he probably got the thank you. He got it. He understood. Piper always sounds like he's got something important to say no matter what. I'm pretty sure. Like, could you imagine like working? I don't know. I just think about like Starbucks and like taking his order, but you know, he's got assistants for that. So that's what that is. Christina says, I know, have so much to contribute. This is great. Secundum verbum Dei. I used to listen to Piper a lot and the pietism got into my brain real deep. Fun is sinful, don't you know? Face orange biting nails, which is an emoji that for some reason, I don't know why, but my software here always like interprets it. It's like a foreign language and it always sounds so weird when it's like, well, how did that one get put? Face orange biting nails. I know what you did. But let's see. Heidi's getting poetic in the chat. She just loves her husband. 6:30 here in Scotland. Oh, the Claymore. That makes so much sense. Drew McIntyre. Man, He was great during the pandemic. I'm just saying. A different note. I saw a video recently from John Piper on how he excommunicated his son Abraham after he said he no longer believed. My heart broke for Abraham. Whoa. Hit me up in a message somewhere, Instagram or Twitter. Let me know what the link is for that. I'm going to look that up after. I did not hear about that. I would be very interested to watch that, and maybe it would be helpful for the channel. Let's see. Wendy says, "Hey dogs, the Lord has provided a new home for me." Yes, that's awesome. Overwhelmed with the goodness of God. That's awesome. So glad to hear that. And everybody in the chat is happy to hear that. John needs to be with Flipper. What? I love it. I love it, Carol. I appreciate it. Let's see. That church guy loved him. Kicking him out for no longer believing is a strange interpretation and use of scripture. Also borders on cult-like behavior. Very curious to watch that video. Very curious. Johnny Appleseed, John MacArthur, what a new uncontroversial topic indeed, right? It's just like, yeah, that's what people know. Oh, Dean Lantini, he's that guy who talks about John MacArthur all the time, right? It's John MacArthur and it's Mark Driscoll, and apparently it's The Chosen. And I don't like any of them. Saved by Grace said, just had an accident on Wednesday last week. Pray for my healing. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry to hear that. We will be praying. Stephen Talos. Hi from Peebles, Claymore. Oh, there's a Scottish connection. A tag team foreman in the chat. Saved by Grace, I'm recovering from the independent fundamental cult. Been there. And Kip saying, congrats, Wendy. I appreciate everybody who's in the chat. And everyone who isn't, you are no longer welcome. 71 people. There's probably like 20 people in the chat. So the 50, you could leave now. We're going to talk about John MacArthur. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Stay. Hit the like button. Okay. Let's talk about this because Shepherd's Conference happened. And every year it comes around and there's something that comes out of this conference where people are talking about it. You know, one year it's the awkward confrontation from Phil Johnson during a Q&A of Mark Dever and Ligon Duncan about the wokeness and TGC and Martin Luther King Jr. and all this stuff. That was awkward. We just constantly get this kind of thing that happens every single year, and it's partly funny, but also there's some serious things that get said. And let's be clear that even though maybe people who are watching this stream, like we're watching from afar with this thing and we're looking at it as, yeah, that's crazy, or yeah, I disagree with that, and you're going in with understanding that that's probably going to happen. But there are so many more who watch this thing and are impacted by it. And maybe they haven't been through what maybe you've been through. They don't have your background. They're still in the world of the fundy world. They're still in fundy town. And, they're just soaking all this in like a sponge. They're just absorbing it, and they're having it affect their theology. They're having it affect, how they view others. And so it is a big deal. It's not just like, okay, let's talk about the wrongness of MacArthur once again, or the wrongness of his buddies once again. But there are real implications for how people that you and I know, maybe it won't be us, but it will be people that you and I know who will then go into their churches and they'll use that same language, or maybe even pastors and teachers will continue to use the theology that's taught there. And let's also be clear that not everything is bad, right? Like, these are Christians. They're Christians. and so like they're getting together and they're talking about the Bible. And so there's going to be a lot of good. All right. So when I talk about these things, I always want to be clear that it's not like I'm saying everything that comes out of this place is the wrongest, that it's the worst. And like, I'll get people who are like, you just hate John MacArthur. No, I don't. I've learned a lot from John MacArthur over the years. Now, I disagree very strongly on some things. I disagree strongly about certain things, but some other things I agree with them. So I just want that said, because there are going to be people who, whenever I talk about this kind of stuff, they're going to come into the comment section and they're just going to say like, oh, all you guys just love to bash MacArthur. Here's the deal. People have a public platform, and the reason why you even know about it, most likely you didn't go to Shepherd's Conference. All right. Most likely you don't, but you know what was said, right? Because the internet uses like, all these platforms to be able to push, like these people use that internet to push their message out there. And so it's okay for us to take a look at that public viewing, that public teaching out there, and be able to say publicly that you agree or disagree with it. All right. It's totally fair. All right. This is fair use. So get off my back. I'm just kidding. Maybe. Just a little bit. There's a little bit of truth in there. All right, so let's start just going through some of the things that happen. All right, wait, just a sec. I have something else that I need to show you. Like it's a really it's a big deal. Let me figure out how to show you this. I need to. Yeah, there it is. It's just, this is important. This is important. I need to show you the stage. All right, let's start off with something a little bit funny. But check this out. All right. How many ferns do you need on a stage? That's what I want to know. What is going on here? We already got a dislike. How dare he? How dare he make fun of the ferns? This is the kind of stuff that keeps me entertained, okay? But we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ferns on a stage with 3 chairs, taking literally the science of between two ferns, and they're just rolling with it. So this is how you know you're in Fundy Town, is when they're still using these ferns. Like they're still using the ferns to be like, hey, this matters. We're going to have an important conversation. Everyone else is like, why are there so many ferns up there? We know they're all fake. It's okay. But it's all right. Let's get into some real things. I guess we have to talk about real things. Maybe I should just turn into a comedy show. Some people say it already is. All right. Let's talk about this. All right. We got the man, Steve Lawson, who now is getting talked about this. There's like basically 3 huge things that came out of Shepherd's Conference. None of it involves the gospel. Like, so that's where you go like, why do we do this? Okay. But we got Samuel Say, who is the Canadian mascot for patriarchy. All right. It's just those guys will use him, and I don't know if he knows it. But he writes a lot, and he does a lot on Twitter, and it's usually connected with like the Joel Webbins, those kind of guys, and he's up here in Canada. Or at least he was. Maybe he moved. Yeah, I think he might have moved. All right. Anyways, he tweeted this out. So maybe he was there. Maybe he was just watching. Looks like a picture that he took. Jesus isn't coming to save. He's coming to slaughter. He isn't coming to deliver. He's coming to destroy and damn. All right. So a lot of people are upset about this one, and they're just like throwing it out there and being like, how could this be said in a sermon? Cards on the table. This is true. Like this is going to happen if you've read the book of Revelation. Like this is biblical. Jesus comes back with a sword. That being said, why this needs to be said in a room filled with pastors? Not necessarily understandable. Like this, basically, what is going on here is fear tactics. This is one of the reasons I stopped listening to Steve Lawson. I used to really enjoy his preaching, but then I realized that most of his preaching is about preaching. And I don't know if you guys have seen this a lot, but it's also a huge part of this conference, where it's just like, and like, it kind of makes sense with the conference because at least you're talking to mostly pastors. It's a men's conference. So women, you got to wait at the hotel. I wonder how many families have been stuck at the hotel. You know, like the wife and the kids are stuck at the hotel because the husband was just like, we're going to go to Shepherd's Conference for our vacation. You guys want to go to Disneyland? And everyone's like, yeah. And he's like, all right, but first you got to wait through 4 days of preaching in the hotel. And then we'll spend 1 day at Disneyland. And then we got to get back. We got to get back for Sunday. So I'm sure that happens a lot. But I used to listen to this guy quite a bit, but it's a lot about expository preaching. It's a lot of fear tactics. And once you start to realize that, you kind of, make some of the connections and you're like, is he that great of a preacher? So for me, he's fallen off for me. All right. I used to really like him. But what he's saying, I believe, is factually true. But once again, why would you say that in a room filled with pastors? Also, why do you tweet this? Like, what's the implication here? We got 100 people watching right now. 100 people watch, and immediately not 100. Hit the like button if you're here, y'all. Even if you don't know me, even if you're just like, I want to hear more about John MacArthur, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm be like, maybe some other people will like to join in. But I think basically what he's trying to do is just to tell everyone that we're mad at the world. That I don't know the other implication. Any Christian is going to know this is happening, right? Like, or at least those who have a certain view of Revelation, you will look at Revelation, you'll say, yes, the factually true. Like that's going to be happening. I didn't say hit the dislike button, y'all. I said hit the like buttons. Somebody shared it. Somebody shared it. But I think this is what's going on. It's basically just hey, we're mad at the world, so they're all going to hell. So, let's just put that out there. I guess the implication is that we need to be about evangelism, but that's not the quote. And that's what gets me about this thing. Factually, I think it's true according to Revelation, but it's also leaving out the context of Revelation. And again, it's a short quote, but whatever. But you chose to put this out. So you're trying to get this out there. And it's like, okay, what do you want us to do with that? Well, evangelism. Well, that's not what you shared. Like it's just fear, putting fear out into the world. And you're just liking the way that he put it. He's not coming to save. He's coming to slaughter. That's as if he's not saving right now. Like, that's kind of the implication. It's like, oh, he's gonna slaughter everyone. Well, he's saving. He's saving right now. You can believe in Jesus Christ as your Savior right now and be saved from your sins. Like that's what's going on. That's what Jesus is about right now. It's not like he's just chilling. His gospel is going forward. His Holy Spirit is here indwelling believers, empowering us, enabling us to get the gospel out. Like you didn't miss the Piper stuff, Patrick. We're getting to it. But that's what Jesus is about right now. Yes, he's going to defeat all his enemies. They will be placed under his feet, right? Like we get that. We understand that. But here's the deal. Christians need to stop acting like we're fighting with Jesus. All right. There are so many Christians right now, especially with this Christian nationalism garbage, that is just, they're all about like we're fighting a war. We're fighting a war. Here's the deal. We are fighting a war. Jesus has enlisted us as soldiers in his war, in that we share the gospel with people. And we live out our good works so that others can see. And that's how we fight. We fight not against people, not against flesh and blood, like Paul says, but we fight against principalities and powers. All right. We fight a spiritual war. And when he's saying he's coming to slaughter, that's where you're going from spiritual to physical. And Jesus will physically do that with his enemies. Like that, I believe that. That's my interpretation of Revelation. You might be like, what is he talking about? Read Revelation. But his gospel is here. So anyone who is his enemy doesn't have to be slaughtered. Anyone who is his enemy can be saved right now. And that's what we're about. That's what we're supposed to be doing right now, is getting the gospel out. And so just saying this because, alliteration, he save and slaughter, like, come on. Like, that's just, it ain't good. It ain't good. So, like, I just saw this and people are talking about it and thought I'd share some of my thoughts. Now, here's a big one before we get into Piper. Let's talk 104 people watching, 50 likes. All right. I see how it is. All right. Let's talk about this. There's this pastor, Armin guy. And apparently he pastored in Calgary for like a hot second. But now he's a Presbyterian, I think down in South Carolina, I think is what I looked up. I did a little bit of research. I try sometimes. Sometimes I actually Google some stuff. So get off my back a little bit. All right. But he said this. What I said about Bob Coughlin, so apparently he said something else. Leading worship seemed to bother some people. Maybe a video will help. This is from ShepCon 2024. In my opinion, this has a distinct effeminate vibe. All right. So let's take a look and see, is this guy right? All right, this is what he was saying had a distinct effeminate vibe. Where is it? There's nothing effeminate about this music. Now, let's talk about the words for a second. All right, the words are about Jesus making enemies into friends through his kindness, through his love. This is a worship song about the kindness of Jesus Christ, his character. As some would say, the most basic thing about Jesus' personality, that he is gentle and lowly. And that's why this song is being targeted. All right, because it's effeminate to be gentle and lowly. Now, if you read the Gospels, which this pastor obviously has done, I think you would come to a sense that Jesus, yes, he's a very kind, compassionate person. So you should be worshiping based off of knowledge, right? Like this would be something that a lot of these guys would talk about all the time in their stuff about how, Bethel and all these worship bands, they just come up with their own stuff, but we should be worshiping based off of knowledge. Well, again, if you read the Gospels, that knowledge that you'll come away with is that Jesus is a kind, compassionate soul. Like he is gentle and lowly. Those are the things you'll come away with. Why not worship based off of that knowledge? There's nothing factually wrong about these songs, about this song. There's nothing theologically incorrect. But what's being targeted, and this is what this pastor brought out, was the sound. It just sounds effeminate. Why? Let's keep on listening. Listen to the sound of it.
What's wrong with you people?
There's nothing about this song that is going to make you think that this is an effeminate song unless you have preconceived notions about masculinity, about femininity, and you take that into worship experiences. All right, it is a piano playing something slow. Maybe it's not your favorite worship song. It doesn't have to be. I don't think it's like the greatest thing ever written. All right. But it's slow so that congregations can follow. Like, let's be real. Like a lot of the church music that we have sung in churches, it all sounds the same because you're dealing with a group of people who might not be trained with music. Okay. Maybe not everyone can be like Daisy May. I'm not a great singer. I should have done the West Virginia one. But like, not everyone is a great singer, right? Or a good singer. Or a lot of them are even bad singers. And you're still wanting them all to group together and sing out this love for God. And so you do that through simple music. And sometimes that's not going to be a march. And I think that's really the point of this thing, is that you're looking at a slow piano and you're saying that's effeminate. And what you were meaning by that is that it's not the masculine worship that we should be doing, because, we should be doing like a mighty fortress is our God. We should be doing a march. And those are the different ways that you do leading worship. All right. Like you lead through either it's a slow song or it has such a strong beat, like a march, that you're going to keep people in line with the music. And you're going to have them all come together on this journey through this song. And you're not going to lose people along the way, which is why a lot of these other songs, like, these kind of like newer worship songs, sometimes they fall off, not because like the style of music is bad, but sometimes it's just meant for someone to be singing a solo and not just, a whole congregation, hundreds of people singing together. You got to either go slow or have such a strong beat that you're going to keep with the music. All right. And what you're doing right there is, this is the main problem that I have with all the patriarchy guys. There's a plethora of problems. There's lots of them. You could go through a huge list, but this is where it leads, guys. It's where you start taking all of that stuff that you've been talking about with your buddies in the garage, and you start bringing it onto online life, onto Twitter, and start trying to build a platform by just looking at anything that you would describe based on your personal preferences, your background, as effeminate or feminine. And you start saying, hey, that's the problem with society. This is the problem with the church, that we're just, it's such effeminate music. This is the reason why men don't like to come to church. I would argue that the reason why most men don't like coming to church is that they don't like being told what to do. It's more of an authoritarian problem than it is like this, everything is so girly. That's something that's been around for like the last 10 years. I don't know who came up with that. It's not based off of facts, okay? It's not based off of real surveys that go around and actually talk to real people, all right? There's some surveys that go out and you're just like, you talk to 10 people on the phone, you wrote a book about it. No. This is what's going on. This guy right here is all about, patriarchy, all about masculinity. And so he's taking that, and that is the lens that he sees through. And he's saying that this is what worship should be. Guys, if you look at the Old Testament, there was lots of stuff. Everyone talks about, King David. King David, he was a giant slayer. What a man's man. Well, the guy did a lot of things that I think these kinds of guys in worship, that they'd probably have some problems with, and maybe be like, this is effeminate. And David's supposed to be a man's man. All right. That's what's going on. So when you see this kind of stuff, understand that this isn't based off of anything. You listen, there's nothing in the Bible about style of music. This is like anyone who's had like a fundy background. This is like PTSD, right? Like, it's just like, okay, we heard that, but it was about rock music. And there's nothing in the Bible that's going to say that a genre of music is wrong. All right. Now, words, content, we could talk about that. But style of music, no. Style of music here, it's like you can say, it is this, and you're just saying your own opinion. Now, if you have like some huge degree, I guess, in music, then maybe it's worthwhile listening to you. Now, if you're just a pastor who's just randomly spouting out their thoughts about music, I'm going to take this as seriously as I'm going to take the King James only guy who is saying that, rock music is from Africa and that makes it sinful. I'm going to take it about like with that much seriousness because there's nothing here that's effeminate. You're reading your own culture into the song. And you're saying that your culture, which might be a subculture, like it might actually be true for Pastor Armen, or if you're in that world, it might be true in your little corner of the world, of your 100 people in your sphere at your small local church. Like you might have like that it might go like that. Maybe everyone in your church would be like, this is effeminate. Well, that's because of your subculture. But that's not truth, right? We wouldn't say that about anything else theologically, and worship is theological. All right, so you wouldn't do that there. So why are you doing it here? You shouldn't. A lot of these pastors are singing that song. I'm assuming it's based off of a genuine heart to worship God because of his kindness, because of his love for us, that he took us from enemies to friends. I'm assuming that's what they're wanting. And maybe you don't have to like the music. There's a lot of worship songs out there that I listen to and I'm like, this song is just the worst. Like the music is the worst. But you know what? I'm not going to go onto the internet and say it's effeminate or it's way too masculine. Right? What's the problem? Also, what's the problem with music being feminine? Even if that were the case. Right? That's something that people haven't really been talking about too much. It's just like, oh, this song isn't effeminate. Well, also, what would be the problem? Because there's nothing in the Bible that says that we should worship based off of certain style that we ascribe to a gender. No. Men and women worship together. What are we going to do? We're going to start acting like some of these churches around the world where we separate the genders in the church, have the women sit in the back, the men in the front, and they're never around each other. And we got to sing songs differently. We sing it around because we shouldn't mix our voices. Like, how far are we going with this thing? There's nothing in the Bible that talks about a certain gender being like the way, like any kind of characteristic associated with gender, that being the way that we should worship. Like, you're not going to find it. It's basically what this is saying to me is that feminists have infected worship songs. And I'm going to use this as, my soapbox to be able to say that that's what's going on, because femininity is bad. And that's not the way we should roll with this stuff. It's nothing. This is nothing right here. This means nothing because there's no scripture attached to this. You won't be able to find any scripture attached to this. So it's just your preference. And you're saying you're doing exactly what the weaker brother does. You're taking your preference and you're beating your brothers and sisters over the head and saying you have to give in to my preference. That's not how we act toward each other. And like, I don't know, it seems like he has an axe to grind with Bob Coughlin, who it still surprises me that guy exists in this world. like in this fundy world of going to like Shepherd's Conference and stuff. But, he does. And they love him. He does a good job of leading worship for them. But yeah, it's just bizarre to me. 127, not as bizarre as 127 people being here today. I was not, okay. All right. I guess you guys really want to talk about Johnny Pipes, which we will after a short break. Yes, I said it. I gotta make sure somebody has a snack. But we'll be right back in probably 45 seconds. All right. It is that time that everyone has been waiting for. The 124 people watching who stayed through it's probably longer than 45 seconds, but you stayed through because you want to talk about Johnny Pipes. So let's talk about John Piper and what's going on with this guy. I know sometimes, man, just like with Steve Lawson, John Piper has been influential in my life. I've learned a lot through his books. I think until his last couple, I have every single one of his books. I've read them. They're great. Some of my favorite books. That being said, there's one that kind of sticks out, and it's about kind of the last issue that I don't think is so great. Wayne Grudem. All right. So that, like, I've liked the guy. Okay. Now, lately, he said some things that are very troubling to me. This stuff about final justification, this stuff about what is real saving faith, and some of the things that he has described. Oh boy, it sounds similar to what Doug Wilson has said over in Moscow, and that has me troubled. But, a lot of people, they just don't care about that stuff, which is kind of troubling in itself. But, they want to talk about other things with him, other issues that he might have. And it's been weird to see the friendship that he has with John MacArthur all of a sudden kind of come out of nowhere. Now, we've known that they've been friendly in the past because I believe, like, way back in the day, they did a conference together in the Gospel Coalition. John MacArthur was a part of that, even though he likes to pretend like he wasn't. So that's all there. There's some familiarity between the two, but I did not know they were this friendly because, when I heard that John Piper was going to be speaking at this conference, I was like, wait, what? You won't have Mark Dever. This is what he has said publicly, okay? He won't have Mark Dever or Ligon Duncan come back and be at Shepherd's Conference, but he is going to do it with John Piper. And, like, there's a lot of differences between John MacArthur and John Piper. So it's just kind of weird, but I don't know. It's something about getting old. You just all of a sudden, you need new friends. I don't know. But let's take a look at why people are talking about his session at Shepherd's Conference. Let's see what he's got. Oh boy, here comes.
What are we after in our people's lives? And everybody said, obedience. So did I. Amen. But you had already quoted, if you love me, you will obey me. So I'm thinking, I'm after love, folks. And you are too. And because that love is not equal to obedience, and that love is not equal to agape. That love is erotic to the core. That's an overstatement. Eros means I find pleasure in you, Jesus. I find pleasure in you, Jesus. You are my preciousness. And there comes obedience.
Okay. So you could see why people are kind of weirded out by that. Now, if you're wondering, all right, let's make sure people are like, wait, erotic? Does that mean? It doesn't mean that. All right. When he's talking about the love that we have for Jesus being erotic, he is referring to the Greek. Now, it was joked about earlier, but we gotta take another little. It is what it is, guys. It is what it is. Okay. So that clip, when he's talking about the erotic love, he's talking about the Greek. So it isn't necessarily the same that we would say for erotic love today, like just a normal conversation. He's referring to the Greek. That's the context. So there are three different words for love. I feel like I'm giving the worst sermon of all time. Hit the like button if you've heard this before, which is a trick on hitting the like button. But you got agape, which is the love God has for us. You have phileo, which is the love that we have for one another. And eros, which is the love that you have for your spouse. And, it's the lovey-dovey kind of love. So, like, I think what he's trying to say is his catchphrase. All right. The catchphrase that he's had forever is that God is most glorified when you are most satisfied in him. All right. That's the whole thing about Christian hedonism. It's the sentence that you could boil John Piper's ministry into. It is the thing that he wants out in the world more than anything. Now, there are parts of that sentence that I like. All right. I do think that if you were to say it in a way where it is God is most glorified in me when I am most satisfied in him, I believe that is a true statement. Like that you're just loving God. But it's weird when you start saying like God is most glorified when you are most satisfied, and makes it like God's glory depended on you. There's a lot of issues just theologically with that when you start to get into the weeds about it. But I think what's happening here is that he was asked to really bring Christian hedonism to the conference. That was said in the Q&A, that he had sit down in maybe the most, again, just like, what is going on? What is going on with those ferns? Okay. Just an odd conversation. Austin Duncan just fanboying all over the place about these two guys. But it's not worth your time, really. There's really not a whole lot there. But they did say in that conversation that that's what he was asked to do, to bring Christian hedonism to the conference, because apparently John MacArthur now ascribes to Christian hedonism, which again is that God is most glorified when you are most satisfied in him. There's a lot more that goes to it, but that's like the real, the crux of it is that. And so he now ascribes to that. So he wanted John Piper to come in. Now, here's the thing. When you have a brand, just like with this thing, like this right here is a brand. All right. And he took that brand and he read it into his theology and into what he wanted to put out there, his messaging to the world. And that is essentially the same thing that John Piper is doing here. He has a brand. He has messaging that he wants to get into the world, which is Christian hedonism. And I believe that it is blinding him to where the language that he uses. Like there's a couple things with this. One, I think, is that branding, that you just really want to push Christian hedonism, and it is the lens that you see everything through. And I'm sure that he would say, no, it's the Bible, and everyone does that. We all have our blind spots, and sometimes the blind spots are the things that we see the world through, and we just don't even know that we're seeing through rose-colored glasses. But he's been ingrained in this. This has been his whole thing. And I think that is affecting how he views the love that he has for Jesus. Now, the main point that he is trying to say, like, let's take the meaning today out of the equation. We'll talk about that in a second. But the main point about taking pleasure in Jesus, I think that is in a way right? Like if you Westminster Shorter Confession, question number 1, what is the purpose of man? The purpose of man is to glorify God and to enjoy him forever. All right. Christians have been using that, even though I'm not Presbyterian. All right. Christians, we've been using that for a long time to be like, yeah, that's what we do. We glorify God and we enjoy him forever. This is him trying to put a different spin on that, but he's taking it in more of a sensual way, which again, I'm not meaning sensual in that way. I'm meaning your sensations, like your feelings. And he's saying like enjoyment looks like this. It's taking pleasure in this. And if you're going to boil it down, like I agree with the enjoyment part. I don't necessarily agree with like the pleasure aspect. I think that there's a difference between loving someone and taking pleasure in them, right? Like I think that it's deeper. Love is deeper than just like your enjoyment of someone. I think that's why it's glorify God and enjoy him forever rather than just enjoying God. Because if it's just enjoying God, well, isn't that glorifying him? Well, then I think that's what John Piper's ministry has been trying to answer, this like answering the tension between those two things. And I don't think that you should. But he's tried to do that. So for me, when I listen to this, yeah, it's creepy. Yeah, it's weird. And it's not the verbiage that you should use when you're talking about God's love. Then you get into the Greek, which he knows, and you will not see any hint of eros being around, associated with our connection between people and Jesus. You're just not going to find that. You're going to see agape. All right, you're going to see like unconditional love that we should have for him. And then there's a few times where it's phileo because there's like a brotherly connection because we're joint heirs and all of that. So like that's what's going on in the Greek. So he knows that. I think what he's trying to do is get a reaction and then use that branding and talk about, this pleasure thing. And I think that there's a real problem that fundamentalists have with emotions. And I put this on Twitter the other day. There is such a thing as legalism of emotions. It's not just about behavior. We focus on that when we talk about legalism. All the rules, you got to keep this rule and that rule. You don't listen to rock music. Don't listen to effeminate worship. Like all that kind of stuff. You have rules. But then there's also a legalism of you need to love Jesus more. Why aren't you loving Jesus more? If you loved Jesus more, you wouldn't go picking up seashells on your... You wouldn't be retired. You wouldn't be picking up seashells. Who cares about the seashells? Love Jesus more than seashells. Seashells by the seashore. All right, there is a legalism of emotions, and I think that John Piper exists in that. I don't agree when he starts talking about emotions, and unfortunately, he is like one of the main guys in the big evil world that talks about emotions. I just don't buy it. Like the intensity and almost anger that seems like he is like putting out when he is talking about your love for Jesus, it doesn't feel right to me. Now, I'm not saying I'm like the, captain of emotions. Like I just know it all. I am the savant of emotions. I've got issues. Okay. Like, I know, like I'm not the most emotional person, but you put on Spider-Man No Way Home, I'm going to get emotional. Okay. All right. Or you put on Little Women, it's going to happen. All the patriarchy guys who hate watch this thing are just like, it makes so much sense. But I just don't feel that way. Like I don't see the correlation. And whenever I've seen Piper talk about emotions, I always get a little concerned. And actually, I think it's one of the main problems with his work with Wayne Grudem, Biblical Manhood and Womanhood. I think that's one of them, is that he reads his view of emotions into how men act. And then based off of that, he starts talking about how you would feel if, this lady starts giving you directions to the local mall. Like that is one of the main problems, I think, with John Piper. Now, should you be satisfied in Jesus? Yes. But like the way that he puts it, of taking pleasure in and like describing it in this weird way of it's erotic to the core. One, I don't think it's correct. Two, it's super cringy and weird. All right. In a room full of pastors, you might be able to get away with that. But here's the thing. I just don't buy that these people, these celebrity pastors, and make no mistake about it, John MacArthur is a celebrity pastor. I saw somebody talking about, the celebrity pastor, I came out of a celebrity church environment, mega church environment, and John MacArthur is not a celebrity pastor because it doesn't have style. What? Did you look? Did you look at this? He has a style. It's just from the 80s. All right. Like he is a celebrity pastor. John Piper is still, even though he's not a pastor anymore, a celebrity pastor, and I just don't buy that these celebrity pastors get around, well, one, even their congregation that much, like the average Christian. I just don't buy it. I don't think that you could sound this way if you were around real people all that much. All right. I think that they're around their pastors and their staffs and like the team that they have and all of that. It's a bubble. These guys live in a bubble. And so they don't know how they sound. So you might be able to get away with that in a room full of pastors. But as soon as a normal person hears that, an unbeliever for sure, like anyone who doesn't believe in Jesus, they're going to hear that and be like, what? And I even, Phil Johnson at Shepherd's Conference was talking about how the Romans, they heard about all these things going on with the church. They heard about communion and thought that Christians were cannibals. Well, maybe that's a mistake by the church, not just the Romans. Like maybe people should have been a little bit more clear about what they mean by communion and partaking in the flesh and blood of Christ. Like maybe you need to be a little bit more clear about that rather than just be like, oh, the Romans so dumb they thought this. Like when you say stuff like this, you could easily see how people would get confused and be like, wait, what? Like, I mean, you like these guys, even at Shepherd's Conference a couple of years ago, they were talking about like the reckless love of Jesus, like that song. I don't even remember how it goes, but something about reckless love. And they talked about that at Shepherd's Conference, and they have problems with that. But no one's going to have a problem with it's erotic to the core. Just some giggles in the congregation. Like what? It's just, well, John Piper said it. So it's fine now. Like, at least now it's fine. If it was 5 years ago, they would definitely go at him, but not now, because now, you know, the lines have been merged and now this guy belongs over here. He's on our team now. He's not on TGC's team now. Like, even though I think he still is, it's a weird world we're living in, but I just think that's my thoughts on John Piper and the stuff that he said. I just think it's a blind spot. I think it's living in a bubble. I think it's factually incorrect. And honestly, I don't know why more people aren't talking about that. You know, if you want to talk about effeminate, talking about Jesus and the way that we love Jesus being erotic to the core, I think is a way bigger deal. It should be talked about more than whatever this is. So that's what I think. But, you know, what do I know? Let's go to the penalty box.
You want to see a penalty? I'll show you a real penalty. Get on my face, man.
What do we got? What do we got today? Well, first I want to say hi to a few more people and see what they're saying here in the chat. I love hanging out with the chat, by the way. If you're new to the channel, this is what we do. Every Monday, we just hang out. We talk about this kind of stuff, and I love to get your thoughts. So go into the chat. Let me know your thoughts. I'll read the chat even after. If your comment doesn't get put on the screen, I'm reading that thing, or leave a comment. That also helps. So someone needs to give John Piper a pipe. Oh, man, he would get kicked out for sure if he was smoking a pipe. What? David says, yeah, nah. You cannot just redefine words so that your teaching sounds new and distinct. It's gross. John Miller says, I have never been comfortable with that term. Seems like, what was it? Seems like John. Okay. Jesus people. No, literally, they think there's no such thing as a genuine Christian apart from Sunday gatherers. Their definition of church is all assembly. Okay. I'm not sure who that's being described of. John Piper. It's all about Christian hedonism. I think that's probably pretty accurate. Let's see. Ferns are straight 90s decor. Like, yeah, late 80s, early 90s. It was really of the times. And now, it's six. Do we really need a lot of people questioning the amount? Like, between two ferns, fundy style. That's basically what I thought of. All right, let's see what we got from the penalty box.
2-minute minor trip, and there's a call.
Oh, we got a minor infraction here. So this is on my short video. Mark Driscoll has not changed. again, where he is taking someone who says, "You've hurt me in your ministry," and he is shack dunking, which is dunking and then pushing someone out of the way as you do it. And I said, that's probably not great that a pastor would be doing that. Shane Tamanello says, grifting off Mark's name for a quick $1 on YouTube. This channel is not monetized. How many times do I have to say that? I am not getting a single dollar. In fact, I am paying. So, nope, not grifting. Just warning people, because Mark Driscoll, his whole ministry is on the rise. Nobody cares about the rise and fall of Mars Hill anymore. They're over it. And now they only care about the woke stuff. And Mark Driscoll is saying the things that they like about that one. So they're just with him now. Everyone's so happy. Even some of these patriarchy boys, they're getting pretty cozy with him. So be on the lookout for that.
2 minutes for slashing and 2 minutes for roughing.
Speaking of the backyard patriarchy boys, we've got Who is Brian Sauvé? Christendom 2.0 Examined. So I did a little mini series. If you want to go back to, I think, the middle of the summer, I think, if you go in the Underdog Theology playlist here on YouTube, you can find those episodes where I talk about Brian Sauvé, Joel Webbin, all those guys. So some people have found it helpful. So this is from one of those videos, and Fitzy is irrelevant. The dynasty is over. All right. I think that's a football thing. And they say the intro to this video has me rolling. Yeah, you're really going against the grain when Christianity Today agrees with you, Dean. LOL. With the edgy guitar riff. LOL. Here's the deal. It's, oh no, Christians agree with Christians? How crazy. Like, all right. Like, obviously you have some thoughts about Christianity Today, but for me, even if you have thoughts about them and you have certain articles that you don't like, to be like, oh, you agree with Christianity Today? Yeah, I probably tend to agree with Christians. So there's that. And then edgy guitar riff. It's just fun. Edgy. Like, all right, well, this is again, same thing as the effeminate worship guy. It's just, all right, you have a certain view of rock music, but it's not edgy. It's just a guitar riff. All right, I just like it. It sounds good. It gets the ball rolling for the show. And then for me to immediately disrail it. So, all right. Appreciate that, though. Appreciate it.
There's the whistle. There's no excuse there. He knows that whistle's been blown.
No excuse. No excuse. John Adams just entered into the chat and says, leave Piper alone. He's a saint. I mean, there are lots of people who are saints and we still talk about him. I'm just saying, he's a Christian. All right. Why I don't watch The Chosen. How dare I? How dare I not watch The Chosen? So Robertson Island. Never heard of that island. Christian movies are bad. That's something I said. Homeboy's never seen Prince of Egypt, and it shows. All right, I want to finally talk about this, okay? You can't just take a Hollywood production and because it's about Christian stuff, call it a Christian movie or a Christian production. All right. So many people in that short, which still has over 100,000 views. I don't know why it's the most popular thing I've made, but it just is. It's a shame, really, because it brings in so much negativity. But like so many people are like, Prince of Egypt, Passion of the Christ. Have you ever seen that? Huh? Guys, look at my set. I like movies. I've seen the movies. Okay. But you can't be like, oh, this thing about Christian stuff is Christian. All right. When I'm talking about it being a Christian production and Christians have been historically bad with movies and making art in that context, I'm talking about, the weird, like Angel Studios movies. All right. I said it. I think they're weird. All right. Like all these movies that are just like, we got that actor that you loved in the 90s. We got Hercules. Kevin Sorbo is in this thing, and it's great. Those are the movies I'm talking about. You can't just take like DreamWorks, who I think made Prince of Egypt, and be like, that's a Christian movie. All right, it's about Christian things, but it's not like a Christian was like the director and got it all together and they got this money into it and it's meant to be a Christian production. It's a story about Joseph. All right. Or a story about Moses. Sorry, all of a sudden I'm talking about Joseph and the Technicolor coat. But that's what it's about. All right. So stop being like, all right, you haven't seen this. I've seen it. My childhood was all about it. You can when you believe. All right. I get it. This doesn't help your case. Moving on. Next up.
Following play is under review for a major or match penalty.
Let's see. All right. So Bill Twilbeck, Twilight Boy. All right. Denomination in Crisis, SBC. So this was last week's stream. Bill decided to comment first and last time. Ooh, shots fired. Shots fired. First and last time. Between streaming and you talking about nothing, I am bored. I'm out. Now, I went at him a little bit in the comment section, was like, okay, yeah, talking about abuse, so boring. But he was just like, it's you. and all right, like we're studying this. We're saying, is this a major infraction? I'll let it pass. You can be bored if you want. I know I talk about things for a long time and I have fun when I talk about it. But here's the deal. If I did what the YouTube algorithm and everybody tells me to do, which is just to talk about things and get my point across and do it in 30 minutes and stop beating around the bush and having fun with people in the chat, I would be bored as heck. This show would not have gone on for 100 plus episodes. It would have gone for 3. And then I'd be done. Because it's not fun. So I have fun on this show, and I try to, even with some of the heavy topics that we deal with, I try to have a little bit of fun. But apparently I'm not allowed because I get boring. If you get bored, that's on you. You got to find a different show. Because this show just ain't for you. Let's go to Fundyville.
And bring it on down to
Fundy. All right, here we go. Living in Fundyville today. That's kind of how it feels. Let's see what's going on.
I'll tell you the fourth reason this translation is superior to the original. It's in English.
That's right, man. Amen.
Oh, you
We know
think
what
your
translation it
language
is.
is better than anybody else's. No, I don't have a language. I don't have a language. But you know, what language do they speak in Mongolia? Well, that's catchy. You know, I was over in Korea in 1999. They just come out with a translation of the King James into Hangul. It's Korean. We call it Korean, but it's Hangul. And I told this Korean, because everybody looks up to Americans. Oh boy, they got something we don't. I said, you Koreans have something that we Americans don't have. Well, you tell a Korean tell a Mongolian, you got something we Americans don't have. He said, what? I said, a language. We don't have a language. We don't speak American. What do we speak? What? English. Guys, I got to use somebody else. And by the way, your King James Bible is not just English. It is England English.
Oh.
Here's what I mean. Have you ever looked in your Bible?
He's going to the whiteboard. Here we go.
Whilst. Instead of saying while, it says whilst. Instead of an E on the end, it has a T. S-T. I've had people say, well, that's archaic English. That's not. That's 2022 English in England. Today, you pick up a book written by somebody from England today, and they don't say while, they say whilst. So guys, you have an England English Bible. I'm over in England some time ago doing a study for some research for a book. And I'm riding a train, and it's coming into the station. You ever ride like maybe not a train, but you were on the shuttle at an airport, and it says we're now.
I've also been on a
for
train.
people who are getting off the train or people who depart.
I understand how train works.
For passengers who are lighting in England, because lighting isn't lighting. That's why it says she lighted from off her ass. She got off the donkey.
I need one of those guys in with me while I stream. Like, I just want I want that guy who's laughing so hard at everything. Like, I need that kind of support. Imagine having that kind of support. You just do like a cigarette thing, and you got one guy who's just like over the moon about it. All right. Well, this is a guy who apparently he's an Anglican and wants England to rule the world again. Here's the deal. You live where you live. You live where you live, and every language has a dialect. And so, yes, you're going to have different dialects with English, and that doesn't help the King James because you know what? They're still using some of those words. All right. Who's going around in England saying superfluity of naughtiness? All right. Like, show me that. Show me that. Give me some train metaphor for understanding superfluity of naughtiness, and I will take everything back and I'll start using the King James again. I had to when I was in school, guys. This was a rule. All right. So that's Fundyville today. We're just having some fun. Just having some fun. I need to get that. What was it? Daniel Slay, I think is his name. We're like, okay, we're having a good time. And I'll just have that button ready to go because I'll be using that all the time. Let's see. Let's hang out with some more people. We got a little bit more time. Let's see. I saw something. What was it? It was up here. KDO. I don't know if you've been around too much around here, so I want to give you a shout out. Hey, Dean, you might like the crime drama Vindication. It's 3 seasons so far and is pretty different from most Christian-made productions. See, that is how you interact with people without being mean. You could be like, there are some good Christian content. Here's some. That's fine. You know, I appreciate that, Katie. It's just all the other people who are like, have you ever heard? What's wrong with you? Okay, calm down. I just don't want to watch The Chosen. Carol says, I enjoy what Dean has to say. And I'm assuming, I don't see it in the chat, but there's a sometimes somewhere around here. Saved by Grace says, I love the way you engage with the chat. So do I, because why else would I want to do a live show? It's so boring. It would be so boring. I get so bored by these people with their podcasts who are just like, and now pay attention to me for an hour and a half. And so let's hear some other people. Let's have a little bit of fun. Not everything has to be super serious. Even when we're dealing with super serious stuff, there's a time and place. You can transition. Oh man, now you're gonna clip that one out. Caleb says Fundyville, best part. There's my peeps, says Aaron. You know that guy? You recognize that place? Also, all right, let's see if can I quickly get to Fundyville without having to go into, I think I can. All right, let's, I just want us to take note. I'm pretty sure there's like a lot of similarities. Why can't I zoom in? I want to zoom in. Maybe I have to do it this way. All right. Look at all the ferns, guys. Oh, I can't do it. Let's count the ferns. 1, 2. There's one on the wall. Is that a cord or is that like vines? I don't know. So I mean, half as many. Oh no, there's like a little tree thing in the background. I'm assuming on the other side of the baptistry there's another one. I'm just saying there's a lot of them. There's just constantly. What's up with the ferns? I don't get it. Eliza says, what do you expect of a guy who's lived in both Washington and Canada? Just a dang liberal. Some people are like, wait, he's a dang. How is there still 121 of you guys watching? This is the end of the show. This is the end of the show where I just kind of goof off for a little bit. And maybe this week I'll finally work on like a little, exit where it's like 30 seconds and it's like, oh, now it's like, now you can click on another video and it's like the smart way to end a show. I'm probably not going to do that. Let's see. Just popping in. Sam, what's up? What's the happy hap? Just Johnny Pipes doing some pipery. I don't know. Is that a word? Between two tissue boxes. Can you give us any more volume on Fundy, bro? I have to work with the volume that they give, and it's a pretty low volume one. Sorry. I should probably record those and then like boost the audio in my stuff, but that requires actually thinking about it. Let's see. He needs to go back on the train. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. How about you? You got off on the wrong stop. The KJV only position is just wild. Like just on a like academic level, it is insane. Like academically, like as far as like taking all of the actual information, all the data in, for you to come out to that position tells me you don't care about rationality. All right. Now, if you want to just be like, this is my favorite, I think it's the best one, I like the wording in here. Okay. But if you're like, it's the only position, you could be King James preferred and be fine. But if you're King James only, like, oh man, like it's just not going to go well. Like there's always ramifications. In the past, I've called it theological racism. Yeah, I still say that. I'll hold to that one because it's just saying my culture is better than all the other cultures and the cultures that have even come before with, closer in time frame, better manuscripts, more manuscripts you would assume, but no. Nope. Let's see. Go back on the train. Why do these folks do this soliloquies about nothing and call it a sermon? I don't know, man. Here's the deal. All right. I have sat through Fundy World sermons many a time, and I have even sat through one in particular from a guy I really respected. And then after this is when I was just like, what is going on here? He got up and he preached about a dream that his wife had for 20 minutes. He had a scripture verse. He jumped off of that scripture verse into his story, and he just went with that. And I had lunch with him. And I asked him, like, you didn't spend time on your sermon, did you? And he's like, oh, yeah, I did. I spend time on all my sermons. And I was like, how much time did you spend on that sermon? And he said, I don't know, Dean. It was hours. That's all I can tell you. It was hours. I was like, yeah, we done. We out. But, don't give prophecies in a church. But my wife had a dream. Literally speaking nonsense. Richard Baranzini. I am like you, blessed by J Mac much, but also disagree with him on some points. Went to ShepCon many years, never have been a Piper fan though. Yeah, and I think that would probably be the vast majority of that audience. Like Piper in the MacArthur world is not looked at favorably. So it's just kind of shocking that now he's a part of that. Let's see. Tax Collector, what's up, man? This week's Fundyville was boring, not going to lie. Bro just rambled on, and I lost focus. Oh, snap. Oh, if that guy had a penalty box, Tax Collector is going in. John says, man, 121 watching live. That's so dope. I remember the good old days when there was 5 of us watching live. Great stream, Dean. I will never forget when I celebrated 500 subscribers and John Adams was the only guy there. And that's when I knew. I had a bro. I appreciate you, John. Is the ASV translated into American then? What would that even be? Like a lot of y'alls? A lot of y'alls. Queen would be replaced with Beyonce. What else is there? Kristen Vale says, what's the story of how you got away from Fundyville, Dean? I have a video. You could look at old Theo Live episodes in the playlist here on my channel. Had a conversation with my wife about why we left fundamentalism, and you can check that out. And that kind of goes into more detail on the story. And it's a fun conversation because it's just me and my wife. The audio isn't great. Lighting isn't great. one of my kids is just like constantly there and being the star of the show. So it's just whatever. I love it. Fundamentalism. All right, you win. You win. You get the award. That's a comment of the stream. I love it. All right. John Miller says, but seriously, I had to quit reading the King James Version because I am to a point where I hear my childhood pastor screaming at me from the pulpit when as I read it. I hate that this is an issue. Yeah. And again, there's so many good translations, guys. And any of these guys, most of them, I shouldn't say any, most of these guys who talk about King James only, they don't know Greek. They don't know Hebrew. They've never been to seminary, most of them. They're just being like, I'm scared. I'm scared of, academia and there's no real reasons. It's all feelings. It's all what I like. It's all preference. I was told this by this guy. It's not going back to the original sources because ad fontes is Latin and they don't want to do that. They want it in English. All right. That's the end of the show, guys. I appreciate everyone hanging out with me. 104 people still watching the stream. Crazy. Hit the like button if you haven't already. If you're new to the channel, think about subscribing, and I will be back. Maybe even on Wednesday for a living room session. I think that's what I'm going to call streams from upstairs now. But maybe Wednesday night. Be on the lookout for that. You got to be subscribed to know for sure. Anyways, I will see you at some point in the near future, I guess. Bye.